My encounter with Frank, the doctor. My story begins with a private message from a Frank who claimed to be in a FB group that I'm in. He wondered if he and I could get to know each other and see what other groups we had in common. I did a quick view of his profile and he had one follower. I knew then he was a scammer phishing. He finally broke down and said he was in Africa. He still wanted me to send him gift cards because he has nothing and I was rich. He introduced himself and said that he was a friend from a group I was in. The group was about remembering different decades. This scammer had found her through watching her comments that she made in this particular group, and he decided to message her. It starts off with him asking how long I've been in the group, and he told me his name was Dr. Frank from Texas. He asked me who I was in my profile picture, as it was a picture of my husband and myself together. I told him I was the woman in the picture, and the man is my husband. He asked how my day was going and if my husband was the father of my kids, which is an odd question to ask a stranger. Dr. Frank stated that his wife died, and he asked my husband's age, and he commented that my husband seems to be a little older than I was. Dr. Frank asked if I was happily married and that he had not been in a relationship since his wife died. I told him my husband is my soulmate. I knew he was a scammer, so I told him that my husband and I invested in 4 casinos, and my husband travels for meetings, and I raised the 2 kids. I also inherited 2 other casinos from my late father. Dr. Frank told me that it was awesome and that he lost his late wife in a car accident in California, and he had 2 kids, a boy and a girl, with his wife before she died. The daughter was 16, the son, he said, was 12. He was impressed that I invested in casinos and said I must be super rich. He brought up how he invests in bitcoins and how much a return he had gotten, and was leaning towards me investing in Bitcoin. He was pushing me to open an account on Amazon so I can invest, which made absolutely no sense. He then asked me if I have Amazon Marketplace, and that he was sorry to bother me, but he needed my help and had no one else to turn to. He then told me that he was not with his kids, he was in Russia, and when he got the call about their mother's death. He came back to Texas, but now suddenly he's in Yemen for 3 years and nothing works. And he doesn't use a mobile phone, but a laptop for scanning, as he is not allowed to use his mobile phone at work, as he works for the U.S. government. I told him I'm sorry to hear that, and I would call the embassy in the morning and ask which hospital did he work at. He said he works at a private surgery hospital, and he needs my help with something online, and he'll show me. He asked me for an Amazon online card package, but he didn't know how much it would cost, but he believes that I will just do it for him. I asked him what his credit card number was, and he asked me why, and was it to pay for it? He said he didn't mean it that way, that he said in my position I could make the world a better place by paying for an Amazon card for him. I told him my uncle works for the U.S. ambassadors and I'll help get him home. Dr. Frank requested that he didn't want me to get him back home. He needs help with an Amazon card. I told him that I thought he wanted to get back home to his kids. Him being an orthopedic surgeon doesn't qualify him for charity. Dr. Frank says he knows that I can help him out. This is important. And he was sorry for bothering me. He's not asking for much, just an Amazon card to sort out his problems, and he'll make it up to me. I sent him a news link stating that there is no Western doctors of any kind in Yemen, and he said for the sake of friendship and trust, he asked for help and honesty, and can't say that you don't have it. I told him I don't know how many people contact me asking for money, but quite a few. He told me he's asking for help or he's honest. I sent him another news article about there being no U.S. doctors in Yemen, and I told him to have a good day. He asked me what the meaning of this was and that I've been checking and checking without reasons. I told him I was trying to see how to help someone in Yemen when they're in trouble. He then asked if I will help. I asked him why he would say he was in Yemen. Dr. Frank said he was sorry and he had no other options. I called him out on his lies and asked him how many women fall for his story, and asked who he really is and how old is he really. Dr. Frank replied saying he was sorry he wasn't honest and no one cares about the truth. Let's push that aside and hope you can help. He said he noticed I was angry and that he is now a better person since he met me. I told him a lot of people online asked me for money. He wanted to know why I would help them and not him. I told him, I don't know you. Dr. Frank went on about how beautiful I am, good, kind, and something so powerful and special. I told him, I do not judge, that's why I checked your info, and I won't gamble on $1,000 without having proof. He said he didn't mean to scare me, and he didn't expect me to give $1,000 to him, just $100 instead. He then wrote about opening my eyes and watched the window and thank God and so on. He would send me good morning texts with cups of coffee photos, good morning sunshine, things like that. I told him that I suppose he won't tell me the truth, and he said he would. He then asked if I had a car. I told him I have several cars and a private driver. He said he would like me to drive me to a better as you can do that. It made no sense. He said he's from Paris, France. I told him his sentences absolutely make no sense. He told me he's not in Yemen and now he's being honest. He's in Paris. I asked him what hospital he works at as I have friends that just happen to be in Paris. He asked if I got him the $100 Amazon card that I promised him. I asked if English is his second language and he said yes and that French is his first language. Dr. Frank said he's having financial problems and that's why he asked for help. He asked if I have Google Chat and I told him no, I only chat here on FB. He then asked me if I will buy him the card, and I can easily just buy it online at Amazon Marketplace. And as I told him, I was out of town. He kept pushing that I can just buy it for him online, buy the card, even if I'm traveling out of town. I asked him if he had eaten at the Pink Mama in Paris, and he said no. I told him to go there and ask for Joel. Since he's in Paris, he'll give you a meal and $500 cash. I told him to send me a picture of the food you get there and take a picture with my friend Joel so I know you're real. He replied saying you might want to stop talking to me if you really know who I am. He then confessed that he's a 28-year-old man from Africa, because he said you'll find out anyway. I told him I don't believe a word of what he says anymore. Dr. Frank said you already know who I am and that's why you keep asking, so I decided to tell you like it is. He confessed that he's from Nigeria. I replied to him and said, so you're a scammer? He said, no, not anymore. But I told him, you're trying to scam me now. He said no, that he was trying to explain and introduce himself properly, and it's wrong and stupid of me to think that he's a scammer. He started to question if I was really American. I told him, of course. He then told me that he knows we don't like people like him, and I told him, I don't like people who lie and scam and steal and victimize poor elderly people, and these people end up homeless because of your lies and tricks. He then asked for pictures of me, and I asked him why. He said that's not who he is, to scam people, and that I don't understand as I don't live in his shoes, that I won't understand even if he tries to be honest and explain. The conversation ended there, and of course I never sent him a thing. Thanks for letting me share. Story 2. I was on FB when I received a message from a man calling himself Richard. He was your typical military profile. I've been on FB for over a decade, so I knew right away it was a scammer in disguise, plus the photos he was using is of a well-known general who is definitely not named Richard. He started with his normal stuff. Hello, my dear, add me up. I tried, but my friendship button is broken. Please send me a friend request. I told him if his button is broken, he should let FB know so they can fix it. His response to me was, yes, dear, I will take notes on the issue. He then told me that he was, yes, the typical widow. Wife died in a ghastly car accident in California while he was away peacekeeping in Yemen. He has one daughter named Olivia, who's 7, and of course away at boarding school in the UK. I asked him if Mary Poppins from the UK boarding school was watching over his daughter, and he said yes, and that he will return from Yemen in 8 months' time, and he will return to California where he would then send for his daughter after her schooling. I told him that's great that she's in boarding school because when it comes time for his little Olivia to come home, she can just hitch a ride on Mary Poppins' umbrella. His response to me was, yes, it's so great, and then asked me what my job is and how often do I get paid. He was wasting no time, so I told him I don't have to work. I won on a scratch off lottery ticket last summer and received $1 million a month for the rest of my life. So it's important for me to eat healthy so I can live forever and take as many payments from the lottery commission as possible. He was absolutely elated over this and told me he was, quote, catching feelings for me right away, and asked if I could apply for his emergency military vacation leave so he could come and visit and spend the rest of his life with me. I told him I can do better than that. I'll send one of my private jets and pilot Davido can come fly him home. He said nothing and then asked what's the meaning of this, and to try and stop playing games as I must be a scammer. I told him no, you're the scammer, and since you know who Davido is, I know where you're at. He told me I was evil and wicked for wasting his time, and I told him that I'd rather he waste his time with me than with someone who might send him money and believe his scamming self. He blocked me before I could block him. Ladies, don't give in to these fools and their stories. It's always the same. Doctor, military widow, a kid at boarding school. Ask them ridiculous questions, make ridiculous comments, and tell them absurd and wild stories of your own life. Their response, they'll always answer your question as to whether you're talking to a real person. Most of the responses they give will be, that's nice, dear. Sometimes, though, scammers will catch your absurd answers and call you out. At any rate, I could identify he was a fake, had a little fun, and moved on. Thank you, my story was short, but it was fun. We'd like to thank these two ladies for sharing their stories. Sometimes we have funny encounters with online romance scammers, and sometimes people are able to identify that they are a fake that they're talking to and can kind of tell them ridiculous things or call them out. If you'd like to share your encounter, whether it's a funny encounter or whether you lost money, your story may help others. So you can find us scammingscammers@gmail.com. Drop us an email. Any screenshots you have will help us to verify your story and we can narrate it into a video. Until next time, as always, stay safe. Always check on photos, check the profile, look for clues. And when all else fails and it sounds wrong and it feels wrong, block them. Until next time, take care.